Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. We're going to look at, well, you sent some really interesting stuff about Ray Dalio's take on the changing world order and
Yeah.
how it connects to, maybe getting out there and experiencing life a little bit outside of the West.
Hmm.
So Dalio, you probably know him as this really successful investor,
Right.
but what's really fascinating is he's kind of a history buff.
Yeah.
He spent a ton of time looking at how empires and economies have risen and fallen over time.
Right. And it's amazing what he's been able to uncover. I mean, he's found these recurring patterns that play out over and over again in history.
Yeah, it's like history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it definitely rhymes.
It rhymes exactly, and that's what he calls these big cycles.
Okay, so let's get into that big cycle concept because, you sent in some articles about, emerging markets are kind of exploding right now,
Mm-hmm.
while Western economies are maybe seeing a little bit more modest growth.
Yeah.
And just to give you some numbers, the U.S. economy is at 2.8% growth compared to like India's 7% and China's 4.8%.
That's right. There's a definite shift happening, and this is where the idea of a reserve currency comes in.
Okay.
This is essentially the currency that dominates global trade and financial transactions. And right now, that's the US dollar,
Right.
which has given the US a lot of advantages, like
Yeah.
easier borrowing, global influence, and generally a pretty stable currency.
Makes sense.
But we're starting to see other currencies, like China's kind of trying to muscle their way in.
So in Dalio's big cycle, you've got these empires that rise to the top and then they decline. And it sounds like somewhere in there that reserve currency status
Exactly.
starts to get
Yeah, you start to see it weaken.
challenged. So what does he say about why empires decline? What are some of the warning signs?
Well, Dalio identifies 8 key factors that contribute to an empire's strength. Things like education, innovation, competitiveness, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, financial center power, and of course that reserve currency strength we just talked about.
Right.
But he also warns about empires overextending themselves, especially when it comes to borrowing.
Yeah, like spending beyond their means.
Exactly. It's like racking up credit card debt and assuming you'll always be able to pay it back.
Right. And I remember in his documentary, there was a really striking example about the Dutch Empire,
Oh, yeah.
when they were kind of top dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up getting involved in all these really expensive wars, trying to hold on to their empire.
Like they overspent and got bogged down in too many conflicts?
And all the while, their rivals were catching up, right?
Exactly.
So it's excessive borrowing. That's one thing.
Yeah.
What else is there to watch out for?
Well, another big factor is internal conflicts often fueled by wealth gaps and social inequalities.
Right.
History's full of examples where these internal tensions bubbled over and destabilized empires from within. Think about the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution.
Oh, yeah, those were huge turning points.
Right, these were moments where internal struggles actually reshaped the global landscape.
So we've got excessive borrowing, internal conflicts. Sounds like a pretty dangerous mix.
It can be.
Where do you see all of this playing out now, and how does it connect to the idea of exploring the world outside of the West?
Well, if we look at the US and China through the lens of Dalio's 8 factors,
Okay.
they're actually pretty comparable in terms of economic output and share of world trade right now.
Interesting.
And while the US still has a very powerful military, China's investing heavily in theirs.
So it's kind of like we're at this pivotal moment, this big cycle might be playing out right now,
It really seems that way.
where, the West is showing some signs of maybe that top stage,
Hmm.
while other regions, particularly in Asia, are kind of rapidly on the rise.
That's exactly why understanding these global shifts is so crucial, especially if you're thinking about travel and experiencing life outside of the West. It's not just about sightseeing anymore.
Right.
It's about witnessing firsthand how this new world order is taking shape.
So you're saying traveling to these emerging markets isn't just about checking off a bucket list.
No, not at all.
It's more about understanding where the future is heading.
That's a big part of it.
You can actually see the rise of these new economic powerhouses,
Hmm.
innovation hubs, and entirely new ways of life.
Precisely.
And having that kind of understanding
Mm.
can be incredibly valuable, both personally and professionally,
Absolutely.
because it allows you to adapt to a world that's changing at an unprecedented pace.
Right.
So we've got this big cycle thing happening, this potential shift in global power and the rise of these emerging markets, especially in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for someone who wants to maybe take advantage of these changes or even consider relocating?
Well, that's where those articles you shared about Southeast Asia come in. They highlight some really interesting opportunities there.
Yet our first source dives into these booming economic centers in Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
Hmm.
They're seeing massive growth in sectors like technology, finance, and digital services,
Right.
all areas that are in really high demand right now.
And not only are their economies booming, but they also offer a lower cost of living compared to many Western countries.
Yeah, that's a huge draw.
You can find modern infrastructure, rich cultural experiences, and strong community values,
Yeah.
often at a fraction of the cost.
It's almost like having the best of both worlds.
It really is.
A dynamic, growing economy, but with a more affordable
Mm-hmm.
and maybe more laid-back lifestyle in many cases.
Right.
Imagine, experiencing a different culture, immersing yourself in a new language,
Yeah.
and being part of a place that's on the rise.
It's an incredible opportunity.
It's something you just don't get by staying in your comfort zone.
Absolutely. It's about stepping outside the familiar and embracing the potential of this shifting landscape.
But any big life change takes some careful planning and preparation,
It does.
which brings us to our second source,
Right.
which has some really practical advice
Yeah.
about how to make a smooth transition to a new country.
It's a great resource.
They really emphasize the importance of financial preparation, like diversifying your savings
Mm-hmm.
into multiple currencies and maybe even considering investments in emerging markets.
That's right.
And they also stress the importance of acquiring new skills,
Mm.
especially those that are in high demand in these emerging economies.
Absolutely.
So things like learning Mandarin Chinese or other Asian languages,
Yeah.
building cross-cultural communication skills,
Mm-hmm.
or becoming an expert in a growing field like technology or renewable energy.
Those are all great examples.
They even go into detail about educational planning for families
Oh,
who
yeah.
are considering relocation. It's like they've thought of everything.
They really have.
And what's interesting is that those skills and strategies are valuable even if you're not relocating. Because in today's world, being adaptable, resourceful, and globally aware is really key to success no matter where you are.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that the world is changing and we have the opportunity to be a part of that change,
Right.
to shape it,
Yeah.
and to benefit from it.
Okay, so we've talked about this big cycle, this shifting global power, these exciting opportunities in Southeast Asia, and even some practical steps for making a transition.
Mm-hmm.
But let's bring it down to a personal level.
Okay.
What does this all mean for you, our listener?
That's the key question, isn't it?
I mean, here's where it gets really interesting. If Dalio's right, and history does tend to repeat itself,
Mm-hmm.
at least in these broad strokes,
Yeah.
then we're at a point of major transition, the old world order is fading, and a new one is emerging.
That's what it looks like.
And that brings both risks and incredible opportunities.
Absolutely.
The question is, how do you want to position yourself in this new world? Do you want to hold on to the familiar, even if it means missing out on the most exciting developments happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you ready to embrace the adventure, step outside your comfort zone, and become a part of shaping the future?
It's a choice we all have to make.
And it's a choice that starts with understanding. That's why we're doing this deep dive,
Right.
exploring Dalio's work and those practical steps you can take to thrive in this changing world.
It's about equipping you with the knowledge and the tools to make smart decisions about your future.
Okay, so let's keep exploring. What are some specific skills and strategies that can help individuals not just survive, but actually thrive in this new world order?
Well, we've touched on a few already.
Yeah.
But let's dig a little deeper.
Okay, sounds good.
One of the most valuable things you can have in this new landscape is being able to speak another language,
Okay.
and particularly Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
As China's influence grows, so does the importance of being able to communicate effectively with its people,
Right.
understanding the culture.
It's like unlocking a whole new world
It really is.
of opportunities.
And it's not just about business either. Speaking the language can open doors to deeper cultural understanding, personal connections.
Yeah.
You can build relationships, navigate daily life more easily,
Right.
and even gain a competitive edge in your career.
Yeah, no matter where you are in the world.
Exactly.
It's a huge asset.
It is. And along those same lines, developing strong cross-cultural communication skills is absolutely essential.
Okay, so you're saying it goes beyond just language.
It does.
It's about understanding those different communication styles.
Yes.
The social norms,
Mm-hmm.
the business practices.
Exactly. It's not just about what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
And even how you act in different cultural settings.
Being sensitive to those nuances.
Right.
And adapting your communication style accordingly.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about specific career skills.
Sure.
What are some of the areas that are likely to be in high demand in this new world order,
Mm.
especially in those booming Southeast Asian markets we've been talking about?
Oh, we're seeing explosive growth in sectors like digital technology,
Okay.
renewable energy,
hmm
e-commerce, sustainable development, and fintech.
So these are areas where innovation is really happening.
It's happening at lightning speed. And the demand for skilled professionals
Yeah.
is only going to increase.
So if someone is thinking about, maybe upskilling or changing careers,
hmm
these are good areas to focus on.
They are. It's like catching a wave right as it's starting to swell.
I like that analogy.
And it's not just about those technical skills either.
Okay.
Things like critical thinking, problem solving,
hmm
adaptability,
Right.
those are also highly valued.
Yeah, being able to learn, quickly adjust to new situations,
Right.
come up with creative solutions.
Exactly. Those are skills that are transferable
hmm
no matter what field you're in.
Okay, so we've got the skills piece down.
Yeah.
Now for those who are feeling really adventurous.